Emmeda wana say then the so we tum na wa join him. Ended down common na yerba betiedo about poetry. But then ansana yabotiedo from where we left off yesterday. Nana membi saw first in my reason also also with definition. See a poetry, what is it exactly?
Poetry, yo. I mean chia otifo see you can say I mean someone. Mechi mwako a family.
Okay.
You can't achieve here, no macabrof.
Okay.
You can't mean someone. And I can say ye new baby. Not just say ye 2 year book. A chain baku, a baku me no mienza. Ye be before. Yashada she. Yashishi wins where the koi be potting. Ura ubi fee, not contain sisi wa. Contain you one hodo. Contain to be our heading. Yadi. Aha. Kenten essence will be idea and a seven so yes shasem nivia ye would the idea. Ye would the didja. Ye would the chadi. Ye want some more at the bonfire. And yet one didja. That's what I say. Ha, intimidity say, oh, many as someone who should share in seminal and acasafuano. Eddie could jenny papotin be enemy. As someone who catch on, open say a tall so our quinson could be so. A tall so was a quinus or share him say. Omunsu omuayom de bema no ebeko sei ana ebeko sa e bia wo kugina wani mu bewie no wo hwe sei ebebo ensem wo hwe sei ho bi yedin fi sei bia omodwen obi kra re ebeko e bia no osu nti wo hwe sei asem a wo de ko no ebetumi ato nipa ne koma so. And so in English I say poetry is a skill of handling language to have a desired effect on an audience and to elicit a desired response.
Okay.
Is a skill of handling language to have an effect on an audience, and to elicit a desired effect or response. By these 3 things, poetry has been achieved.
Emma, also definition of what poetry is.
I think a spin-off from my work and say it simply means then that poetry is giving expression to our common humanity. Because then people are experiencing different things at different times, have different questions on their minds. The unique thing about that is at every point in time, you would find a handful of similar people confronting same questions, similar situations, similar fears, or wanting to get to similar heights. We share this in commonness with humans. As long as you find a collection of human beings, you will find that these things are there. What poetry does is it gives expression to these things that we experience on the daily as humans. But the added advantage to it is it's done in an elevated tongue. So it's not like but the way a poet would apply skill to convey that message, it speaks to the beauty of what we're experiencing. It paints the pain vividly of what we're experiencing. It gives form to fear. And so if obi hu mes wo be no wa chema or kumnasa poets jina hono kan na anwensem wia because meka de aha na me pada meka na mes ma me ya meka de masem. So that's what it does. It gives language to what you otherwise cannot express. It gives a voice to what you can't find within you. Eye bibi aya nto menye poets be no no kan say yes aha the masem na akama na me peda me kan ba akama wa ayefo. So everybody now wants to listen to it and we identify with it uniquely.
Matter. At one point na meka dey emiaba me a poet. Now me be said that question me because I've seen a lot of poets perform. And obi wo ho no mo jono no sha ase ro perform.
I'm dancer robot.
Obi jono ho no performer. Etum kada a na iho no tunufo. I mean, what is this?
Well, I can't
because as no can nan basa. And at what point na makada emiaba I'm a poet.
I think there are so many, and I'm sure at a point, and I would add to that, but there are so many ways to look at this. One, basic, a command over the language, whatever form of expression we choose, a certain command over it. Yekadobi has a command over the language. So you have to know what you are saying as a poet. You would have to be very direct with your message. And so my air it's straight to a point, and yet it's all over the place. It's like he said, it has to it's supposed to achieve a particular goal. And so whatever theme you're writing on, at the end of the day, you don't have to explain it. We should know this is what you were about. Or otherwise, a few pointers to what you actually meant with the things. The other thing that we can also use, or one of the other parameters we can also use to say that Bikri a poet, is how well they use the literary devices, how well they pull the words together to give it a form on a page. Say a performance poet, the stage, mannerisms, how they command the space they find themselves in, how they articulate themselves, how they grab the attention of the people listening to them. And so there are so many parameters to define who a poet is, but at the end of the day, it is someone who is communicating from a genuine and authentic place.
Anna.
See, there I went to wait. The Shisha pointer, a Basara and a pack of the.
Me a poet, Mama wait. Remember wait.
Me a poet. You. There would not be any hard and fast rule to define who a poet is. Also, Oronian, as Anna, Oronian BB. Good. How do you tell somebody is a weaver of baskets? You should have woven a basket.
If you have woven a basket.
That is acceptable, appreciable, beautiful. And so if you've been able to create that work and it's beautiful, at that point, you have written a poem. But it's not just one off that makes you a poet. Consistency. Do you get my point? Somebody can just prophesy once, does not make the person a prophet.
It doesn't mean the person is a prophet, yeah.
Is it something that the person, is it a skill? We're talking about a skill. Does the person have it? Even in regular conversation, but when you be a Komo, I said, no, Charlie, you pay no Komozi medal because or style be all can say me like, yeah, you realize that you might not be a word person as you're saying, but the person is really engaging you because the person has the skill of handling the language. You might be so angry, the person has a way of just bringing it down. And poetry is not only boxed in the stanza. Somebody's arranging, first stanza, then there's a chorus, another stanza, like the way the musicians might do. That poetry is bigger than that. So it's language in general, such that even if I wrote science fiction, you might be reading poetry. So you constantly practice. When you realize you're good with the language, constantly practice. Different ways, I say you aim to say it differently than the usual, so that it always strikes a bell. It always rings a bell. Aim to say it differently than the regular everyday person, and then it stays with you. When you keep on going, you realize that, well, this is my strength. I am a poet because I have that unique skill of handling language in the economy, with the economy of words, and still painting very fantastic mental pictures for people. So really, there is, it's an inner conviction. Okay. But I believe that when anybody has found their calling, then we say they are a poet.
Okay.
How? You cannot tell the surgery situation better than a surgeon. However, the surgery situation can be told from the point of view of the one who is being operated upon.
Yeah.
But the surgeon has done it so many times. That person went to that table just once.
Just once.
So you can't tell the surgery situation better than the surgeon. Because that consistency, that gives you that experience, that gives you that conviction that this is what is meant for me. This is what I'm good at. Yeah.
Okay. When Emma was speaking,
yes,
she made mention of mannerism when one is performing. Obia oye timid. Obutuma a poet.
Why not? poetry can be delivered in such a way. It can be a voiceover.
I have seen people do poetry.
Yes.
And timidity is written
All over them.
all over them.
It's timidity written over their message they are delivering. Listen to the message.
It doesn't become boring.
Well, I think those things are developed over time. It's like finding gold.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's not precious. But when you find gold in the rawest form, you probably might walk past it. All the precious minerals we appreciate are buried deep in dust. But when we dig them out and refine them, then we appreciate and add value to them. So at the core, Obi Bekado is a poet, but we've not packaged, refined, trained, groomed that person. So maybe the person you are seeing Ekado or you're timid, ne delivery, ne kasai, mesmo, or what, like even the look is not appealing enough. It's a matter of packaging. It doesn't speak to the heart of the message of what the person is doing. So it's true that you are addressed the way you appear, or appearance has a bigger take when we are dealing with performances. But not all poets are performance poets. That's one thing.
Okay.
So not everybody who is a poet is for the stage.
Yes.
Now, on your for stage or for him?
A page.
Some are for books. Some are for
Just audio.
conversing, like poetry.
Does everybody know that if I am a poet, I don't necessarily have to stand up and perform?
Not everybody might know that. So somebody
Yeah.
does not know that his performance is not the best. Some people write for others to perform. I was going to give you a good analogy.
Okay.
2 men of God can be placed on stage to preach the salvation message. One will scream on top of his voice. The other is very calm. It's really a difference in personality. So I said, don't raise your voice, refine your argument. It's not a case of shouting or whatever it is. Listen to the sanity of the message. It's the message that's supposed to send something to you. However, communication is not just the word they're speaking. It comes with their gestures. And so as Ofosua rightly said, it comes with consistency. It comes with practice. Because I told you, it's a skill of handling language. Language is not just what we speak. The body's language as well. To communicate a particular message to an audience, you are aiming to have a certain effect on them. So you can't be talking about being happy and have a egg on your face. I'm happy.
It
And
has
you
to show
smile.
on your face
Yes.
that you're happy.
And then it gets the message to them, and then they give you the kind of response that you're looking for. So it's communication. If you decide to put your art into performance, look at what message you're trying to communicate.
And,
Yes.
and
Even
to
some
add to
poetry is
that-
not delivered with voice.
Yeah. Even to add to that, outside of poetry, talk communication, 70% of what we don't say
It's in our
is
gestures.
in body language.
Yeah.
So 30, what you are saying for people to hear, the verbalizing or vocalizing is only 30% of the whole package.
Yeah.
So if once you take it a step further to say, I want to do performance, we're dealing with a whole new space outside of poetry. You're trying to refine it and add more value on a different skill.
Okay.
But at the heart of it, everybody can be a poet. Once the skill, if you have the gift, it can be polished. If you don't have it, it can be taught. Either ways, there's a starting point for it, and there's the elevated value added part of it. And not all poets are also performance poets. Some are just even in TV production, there are people who are strictly writers.
Yeah.
Not just for books for it to
Yeah.
be published like a collection of poems, but some are just writing for screen. And it has an element of poetry in a way that can be carried in film telling. There are poets who are probably writing just for advertisement, marketing, it's just they have a better understanding of language and they just know how to put it together to make sense, to have an emotional appeal to whoever we are trying to reach. And so a poet may not always be on the stage. There are different spaces we can find ourselves in, as long as we hone in on the skill of writing, articulating, and knowing how to string together words to make appealing language.
I don't know how best to ask this question, but I think this is the best way to ask it. And I know you would understand. does a poet lose their voice? As in, do they lose the ability to write, to perform? Like, do they lose the ability to find the words to perform?
As a writer's block, or is that what you
That's
feel?
why I said I don't know the right way.
We can go philosophical about it.
Okay.
We can go
Direct.
Like
can
sometimes
go
you're
direct
watching a
about
movie and a character will be in it and they will say the person was a painter, but at a point the person wasn't getting the inspiration to paint again, so they stop completely.
It happens. It happens. Life has a way of throwing roadblocks your way. So, for instance, different poets are inspired by different things. There's that.
Okay.
Some people write their best when they are in cornered places, when they are at their worst, when life is throwing the worst of storms their way. The pain is a good inspiration for them. And so you realize that there are some musicians who would make hit songs out of heartbreak issues. The moment they fall in love, they don't write hit songs again. So sources of inspiration.
There could be.
It's one way to look at it. Their source of inspiration probably is no longer
it's broken. So any hit or broken heart, what did they be make sure the wakumat?
On them.
Hit.
Let's keep it in context. The source of inspiration, right, varies at every point in our life journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a human being, right? You're a child. You're learning to crawl.
Yeah.
There are experiences around that you would find you'll be able to anchor on and communicate on that point. When you grow and you hit adolescence, there are things that comes in that space where you're like, oh, this is what draws out the writer in me. And then you hit your mid-age, whatever level, and then there are other circumstances around that side. For some, it's pain. For some, it's joy. For some, it's victory. For some, it's environment. For some, it's purely God. For some, it is they have to read a verse. For some, it is even a pivot on other people's works. I must watch a movie to be inspired to write something. It triggers a storyline, or listen to a song. Inspiration comes in different forms, or I must travel, look at things, and then it stirs up the writer in me. Yeah. But the thing is, once you identify that writing is my thing, poetry is my thing, you have to dig in on what brings the most fluid to this vehicle, what oils the rims, what gets me moving, and then you focus on that. No, but for some people, pain is a good motivation.
So if you're that kind, it means to keep going. You always need to be in pain.
You have to find a way to recreate the scenarios. You'd have to find a way to recreate.
2010, 12 years now. You derive inspiration from the pain. You start writing. Now, see, no,
you actually. No, the thing is simply this. Look, we put our experiences in our work. That's all.
That's it.
That is one of the sources of creative ideas. Now, life has a way of making people lose that interest. Somebody stops writing because he feels, well, it's not paying me. I'm not making money out of it. I don't have the platforms. I don't have this. 2, there can be the part where someone needs some sort of physical inspiration to keep going. But I've been telling them I've broken that thing of a writer's block. I don't have a writer's block. I can write anytime I choose to. Okay. It comes with time. Once you come to realize what your full powers are as a creative, you should be able to do it in and out of season, anytime,
any day.
Effortlessly. The fact that you don't have anything to write about is in itself something to write about.
Before we go, let me ask these 2 questions.
We're going so soon.
Let me ask these 2 questions.
By Muke.
Do Ghanaians make good use of poets? like the environment. I like how
Charlie,
everybody sighed in the studio. Everybody in the studio sighed. You see, I was looking around. Everybody sighed.
I need to close my eyes for this one.
Do they
make good use?
Good use.
I think we're getting there. We're getting to. Without understanding the purpose of a thing, abuse is inevitable. It's paraphrased from something Miles Monroe said. And so we need to understand what the craft is.
Okay.
We need to understand the people that have committed time to grow and develop that craft. And then we need to understand our state as a country, as a people, and then know where we can plug that in. Once we don't make the distinguishing, we don't make time to distinguish between these things, we are definitely going to abuse it. So if people put value on poetry and poets and say, this is good, this is something that has always been part of our history. There's always been poetry. From when we were even in the village, the rural settings, you hear the gong beater coming to dramatize his way of announcing, and everybody stands still listening to them. You hear the linguist going up, running all the appellations. You hear all these things happening. This is all forms of poetry. It's been part of our culture. Now we've brought it a step up, and what we're doing with it now as a people, we have to ask ourselves, where does this fit in the bigger picture? And it has a place. And so once we identify that, we'll be able to give it that place. If we put any value on anything, music, then we can equally put value on poetry, because it's the basis for every creative art form.
Maybe said I'm questioning because whilst the two of you were talking, you made mention of a lot of things that poets do without necessarily saying this and this and this and this is what you do. And I'm thinking, in our entertainment space, our celebrities post a lot, but then you can only pinpoint just one or two people and you say, this someone is writing the captions
For them.
The rest, bro, for Jan, what show had it never can be
Jazz.
Jazz. And I'm thinking that people you can pay to do these write-ups for you. Now, having said that, how lucrative is it to be a poet in this country?
Go here.
Why are you throwing this?
How lucrative it is. If we are not using it well, if you are not even identifying the various poets we have, how lucrative is it in this country?
Okay. By lucrative, you should define the kind of income you're looking at. Whether it's for pecuniary interest, I mean money. Somebody wants to get famous. Somebody money. How lucrative? Okay. So how does it pay?
How does it pay?
It's not what you do that matters, it's how you do it. That's what makes a difference in the impact. Same with speech. And so let the work speak for itself. He says, have you seen a man diligent with his work? He will stand before kings and not mere men.
If I'm standing before kings, that's what we
No, to stand before kings, definitely you receive a king's reward. If a king does not value you, there's no way he'll bring you into his presence to speak in a king's court. It doesn't happen like that. But before you have access to the king's court, let me take you into the Bible.
Can I take you into the Bible?
She's
not getting what she wants to hear.
Can I take you into the Bible? Quickly.
And you won't combat, men go deep.
Men go too deep. In the started from Genesis, said men go too deep. First and second Samuel, there was a young man called David. When an evil spirit from God troubled Saul, they said, let's find a man who is cunning. We'll describe that word later. That was how David landed there. David was skilled. His skill was fit for the king's court. That is how he was brought into the king's court. And from that day, him, his father, everybody in his family ate at the king's table for the rest of their lives. Finished. So let your work speak for itself. Look, consistency, definitely it will be noticed. There was somebody who had noticed David playing for sheep. So guys, somebody is going to locate you. Someone is going to find you. Keep doing what you're doing.
What you're saying.
Yes.
Any upcoming events?
At the moment, I don't have an upcoming event.
No.
It might be later on in the year. But let's keep our eye on our social media handles. We have a lot of fantastic poetry, a lot of projects coming up. at Asaase Nana.
Nana.
Asaase Nana. If
Asaase
you're looking
Nana.
to be tutored in poetry, get in touch. If you want to learn tree, get in touch. Indigenous knowledge, get in touch.
To be tutored in poetry, no, pero chede, epideo
The man not.
no, bro, focus on to be tutored, pero kacho de epideo Asaase Nana all social media platforms. Ekun amalanka se sisi amoko ekun because on kofi oda mo on words. Words no shemitim but onto mo pay man. Ntimoko ne mi kosia.
Yes, poetry is lucrative.
Yes.
You can actually build your whole life around it. So it's straight up, poetry is lucrative. You just have to add value to it and position yourself well. And be consistent at it, and it will pay you. Anything that you focus on consistently yields results. And so if you do it and you do it well, you can demand what you want and you will get it. You will not be able to say, give me X, give me Y, if you don't even believe in what you're doing. So it's lucrative as long as you're willing to put in the work and to stay consistent at it.
That's
baseline.
True.
So yeah, that's it.
In a Waso event that is coming up?
At the moment, no, I don't have an upcoming event. What I'm doing is promoting my book.
Okay.
Which I launched. I think I Wish You Courage in the Night Season.
I Wish You Courage in the Night Season.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
I Wish You Courage in the Night Season. It's a collection of my poetry. It's documenting, it's taking you on a journey. I wrote it in a period where it was my darkest, and so I draw from that and then I write to inspire other people. Intimate. Oh yeah, 50 cedis pay. 50 cedis. Pay bia. Betuma call Vidya bookshop or branch or laboni. No be wosu. A person betuma empede beko baby or ye book nook whatever bro will fee and a Haptel book nook.
Okay.
Yeah, book nook stores whatever bro will fee and I haptel.com. Once word baby will fee. Any Ghana so na pede pay bia Amazon for be. Ebook, hardcover, paperback. This
is so beautiful. I Wish You Courage in the Night Season. I mean, the name says it all. It tells you how much encouragement is.
To deal with broken hearts.
I want to come out. It was in the film or YouTube. In Tibet, Emma Ofosua, Emma Ofosua Ofosua on YouTube, Instagram. Videos mainly YouTube. Some of the poems in the book have been made into film, and so you would be able to appreciate it there as well. And DM me, we can arrange to get you a copy or any other encouragement that you need along the way.
It's been exciting. Thank you guys so much for coming. And Asaase and Ima, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.